Hi and welcome to another Watch Geek video. Today I'm going to show you how to use and set up all the functions in the module 5590 that's beating inside this GA-2000 carbon core model. Now, just like in all my other tutorial videos, in the description you will find a table of content with time codes, so you can jump to specific parts of the video or functions of the watch. However, I would advise you to watch the whole video the first time, just so you get acquainted with all the functions that this watch offers. Since this is a regular battery-operated analog digital G-Shock, the first thing that I'm going to show you is how to check and correct the hand's position, because this is something you will have to do whenever you change the battery. When you change the battery, the watch assumes, and you put in the new battery, the watch assumes it's midnight and that the hands are showing exactly midnight. If they're not, you're going to have a messed up watch, because just like all other Casio analog digitals, you actually set up the digital display and the hands just set up themselves using the display. So, to check and correct the hand's position, you have to be in the home screen. So whatever mode you're in, you simply toggle with the mode button or press and hold the mode button and the watch is gonna jump to the home screen. Once in the home screen, you press and hold the adjust button for more than 5 seconds. So you have to ignore the first beep that's taking you to the adjusting screen and wait for the watch to get into the H set or hand setting mode. So press and hold, still hold, and there. Once you do that, the watch is going to align the hands to the position that it thinks they should point, and it's up to you to check and correct if they do not. The first thing that you're setting is the subdial hand. As you can see, it says sub, and the subdial hand, this yellow line should point at the tip of this arrow. If it doesn't, if it's pointing anywhere else, using these two buttons you can move it and correct it. As you can see, you can go counterclockwise and clockwise. Once you've aligned the subdial hand, you press the mode button and the watch is going to ask you for the position of the hour and minute hand, and they have to point to midnight, like so. If they do not, again using these two buttons, you can adjust them. You can even speed scroll by pressing and holding, and you stop them by simply pressing one of these two buttons. These two are actually connected, so if you want to set up the hour hand, you're going to have to spin the minute hand until the hour hand gets to the midnight. So let's align them, like so. Once you're happy with the alignment, now you can exit the hand setting mode by pressing the adjust button again, like so. Now the watch is going to return to the position where these hands should match the digital time displayed here. This is also the easiest way to check the hands, because this has to match the time displayed here. If you're in the home screen and this screen doesn't show the digital time, you can toggle it with the start button, so the watch can show you the day of the week, date and month, and the time. So you just cycle it until you see this time and check it against the hands, and they should match. And as you can see, we've set up these correctly because they do match. So now with the hands aligned properly, you can move on to setting up the actual watch, the time, the calendar, and all the other settings. To do so, you press and hold the adjust button, but you release it after the first beep. So press and hold, and release. And now as you can see, the hands move away to not obscure the digital displays. And the first thing that the watch is going to ask you is your home city. When you want to change the values, like the home city and all the others, you use these two buttons. To cycle through different values, you press the mode button. So to change the home city, using one of these buttons, you can move due east or due west. It's very important to set up this part correctly, because all the times in the world time function are calculated based on your home city. Once you've selected the city that you desire, and it doesn't have to be your actual home city, it just has to be the city in the watch that's in your time zone or in the time zone of your own city. Pressing the mode button again, the watch asks you for the DST or daylight savings time. Pressing the lower button, you can turn it on or off. Depending on how you set it up, the watch, the time is gonna move accordingly. So this is actually the summertime. So in the summer, you want to keep it at on. In the winter, you want to keep it at off if your time zone observes the daylight savings time. Pressing the mode button again, the watch is going to ask you whether you want a 24-hour or a 12-hour display. If you select 12-hour display, you're going to have the AM PM indicator. If you select a 24-hour one, you're going to have the military time. Pressing the mode button again, the watch is going to ask you for the seconds, and you reset them by using the lower button. If you reset them between before 30 seconds. So between 0 and 29, the seconds are going to jump to 0 and the minutes are going to stay unchanged. However, if you reset them after 30 seconds, so between 30 and 59, the seconds are going to jump to 0, but the minutes are going to move by 1 up. So if I reset them now, because we passed 30, the minutes are going to jump to 42. So let's do it. As you can see, the minutes just jumped to 42. Pressing the mode button again, the watch is going to ask us for the hours. And using these two buttons, again, you can go up, you can go down, and you can even speed scroll if you press and hold the buttons, like so. Pressing the mode button again, the watch asks you for the minutes, and you can do the same. So you can speed scroll, and you can go up, and you can go down, like so. So let's put it to 50. Pressing the mode button again, the watch asks you for the year. Again, you can go up, you can go down, and you can speed scroll. Pressing it again, the watch asks you for the month, the same thing, so up, down, speed scroll. And pressing it again asks you for the date. So again, up, down, and speed scroll. The day of the week is calculated automatically, so the watch is not going to ask you that. Pressing the mode button again, the watch asks you whether you want it to make sounds when you operate the keys, the buttons, so it's called key tone. You can toggle it on, or if you press the lower button, you can turn on the mute function where the key tone is going to be turned off. So now the watch is not going to make any noise when you operate the buttons. We'll leave it like this. Pressing the mode button again, the watch asks you for the backlight duration. So when you press the light button, whether you want the light to stay on for 3 seconds, which is indicated by this 3, or if you toggle it with this button to 1, the light is going to stay on for 1.5 seconds. I like to leave it as long as possible, so we're going to put it to 3. Pressing the mode button again cycles you back to the selection of the home city. So if by any chance you missed any of the settings, or you messed up or you set up something incorrectly, pressing the mode button is just gonna keep cycling you through them until you reach it again. Once you've set up everything the way you want to, you press the adjust button to exit the adjusting screen. And the hands are now gonna go back to the position showing the correct time. Now, as you can see, this is called the hand shift function, where the watch automatically moves the hands away from the digital displays so that you can see what's displayed here. However, you can also manually initiate the hand shift function. So let's say if you're using a stopwatch and the hands are currently obscuring this view, while in the stopwatch, timer, alarm, or any other mode, simply pressing the light button twice, and it doesn't have to be extra fast. So 1, 2, the watch is going to initiate the hand shift function. The hands are going to move away from the digital displays, and you're going to have this H and D symbol blinking here. This is to warn you that currently the watch is not showing you the time, but the hand shift function is currently on. The watch is going to stay like this for 60 minutes when you manually initiate it, or until you change the mode by using the mode button. You can also manually turn it off by again pressing the light button twice. So press it twice, and we just canceled the hand shift function. While we're in the home screen, pressing the light once is going to activate the backlight, and it's going to stay on for as long as we set it up in the adjusting screen. Pressing the mode button, like I said, will cycle you through different modes, and pressing and holding it for more than 2 seconds is going to cycle you back to the home screen. Pressing the adjust button, like I said, pressing and holding is going to get you into the adjusting screen. Pressing and holding it for 5 seconds is going to get you to the hand setting screen. However, if you just press it, it's going to display what home city the watch is set up for. So it's going to display Berlin for a couple of seconds and then return back to showing the time. Like I explained earlier, pressing this button is going to cycle what this screen displays. So time, day of the week, or the calendar data, the month and date. So by pressing this, it's just gonna cycle. Pressing this is gonna display for a couple of seconds here what the world time you have set for, and it's gonna actually show you the time of the world time. So press it, and it's gonna say that it's Athens, and currently in Athens you have 12:54, and then it returns back to showing the home city. You can see that this wheel shows you whether or not you're viewing the world time, and once it jumps back to the home city, the time changes, the wheel also changes to home city. Now, pressing and holding this button is going to initiate a time swap function, where the world time or the time zone set up in the world time is going to swap with what you have in your home time. And this is pretty useful for people who travel a lot between two locations. So let's say we live in Paris and we travel to Athens. Now in the world time, the Athens is going to be displayed here while we're going to see Paris time here. However, when we fly to Athens, it's kind of not really practical to view the time here on this small screen, and also all the alarms always ring based on your home city. So when you land in Athens, you want the Athens time to be displayed using these big hands, but you want to keep track of your home time in this small screen here. So to do so while in the home screen, you simply press and hold this for 3 seconds until the watch says swap, like so. And now the Paris time has moved to the world time, while these hands are going to show the Athens time. So if you press this to see what the world time is set for, we can see it's set up for Berlin, and it's going to show you the time of the Berlin. If you press this to see what our home city is currently, as you can see, it's Athens. To cycle back, when you, let's say, fly back to Paris, to your home, you simply press and hold this again for more than 3 seconds, and once it swaps, it's going to change back to the way it was. So now again, the world time function is going to be Athens, while the home city is going to be Berlin or Paris, whatever you selected. Anyways, that's it when it comes to the home screen. Now let's move on to the next function. The next function is the world time function. So here is where you actually select what time zone you want to track, what other time zone you want to track. In this case, it was Athens. You can move due east, you can move due west. Whichever one you select, you can also, not only is it going to be the one that's going to be swappable in the home city, but it's also going to show that time here, while the home city is going to be, or home time is going to be displayed using these hands no matter what function you're in. So currently we set it up for, I don't know, Cairo or whatever we did. Okay, let's say Moscow. And another thing that you can do in the world time is turn on the DST for each and every time zone individually. So in Moscow, this is currently DST off. However, if they're currently observing summertime and you want to have the DST turned on, you press and hold the adjust button, and the watch and the time is going to move accordingly. Now when you see this screen of city, scrolling and before it shows the time, to cancel it, you simply press the adjust button, because that's going to cycle between showing the city and the time. So if you don't want to wait for the animation to finish, you simply press this and it's going to show you the time. To turn off the DST for each time zone individually, you again repeat the process. So you press and hold, and it's going to turn itself off. And that's pretty much it. So moving on. The next function is the stopwatch. This watch comes with a 24-hour stopwatch that can measure down to 1/100th of a second for the first hour, and then after that it's going to measure in 1 second increments. So you can start it, and you're going to have the hundreds of seconds here, you're going to have seconds here and minutes here. Later, these are going to become seconds, these are going to become minutes, and these are going to become hours. So you can start it, you can stop it by pressing the start button, and you can reset by pressing the reset button. You can also do the split times. So you press the start button to start a stopwatch, and when you press the reset button while the stopwatch is running, it's going to freeze the screen so you can write down the data, but the stopwatch keeps running in the background. So to unfreeze the screen, you simply press the reset button again, like so. And this watch can also measure first and second place. So if you have two runners running, when the first one goes through the finish line, you press the reset button. When the second one goes through the finish line, you press the start stop button. Now, once you've written the time of the first runner, so 22:59, you press the reset button. It's going to show you the time of the second runner, so 26:28, and pressing the reset button again is going to reset the stopwatch. And that's pretty much it. So moving on. Next function is the countdown timer. The watch comes with a 24-hour countdown timer settable down to the second. So if it's set up like this to 0, if you press it, it's going to start counting down from 24 hours. Once it reaches 0, it's going to beep. You can also stop it, and pressing the reset button, it's going to reset it back to the setting that it's set up in the memory. And naturally, like I said, you can set it up down to the second, so to any time between 1 second and 24 hours. To do so, you press and hold the adjust button to enter the adjusting mode, and now the watch is going to ask you for the hours. Using these two buttons, just like when you're setting up the time, you can set up the hours. Pressing the mode button it's going to ask you for the minutes, so you can set up the minutes, and pressing it again, it's going to ask you for the seconds. Once you've set up the countdown timer to, let's say, 23 hours, 3 minutes, and 5 seconds, you press the adjust button to exit the adjusting screen, and now when you start it, it's going to start counting down from that. Once it reaches 0, again, it's going to beep, and naturally you can stop it, and like I said, reset it to back to the time set up in the memory. And that's it when it comes to the countdown timer. So moving on. The last function is the alarm. This watch comes with 5 alarms and an hourly chime where the watch is going to beep every hour. To cycle through the alarms and the hourly chime, you use the lower button, the start. So alarm 2, and it's going to display what time the alarm 2 is set for. Alarm 3, and what time it's set for. Alarm 4, alarm 5, and the SIG or the hourly chime. Now any one of these can be turned on or off by pressing the adjust button. So to turn on the hourly chime, you press the adjust button. You're going to have the SIG display saying here on, and this little hyphen is going to appear next to the SIG to tell you that the watch is going to beep every full hour. To turn it off, you press the adjust button again. You can do the same for any of the alarms. So you go to alarm 1, to turn it on, you press the adjust button. You're going to have alarm 1 turned on, and this little hyphen for the ALM is going to be on whenever any of the alarms is turned on. To turn it off, you again press this button. Naturally, each one of these alarms can be set up to any desired time, so let's say you select alarm 3 and press and hold the adjust button to enter the adjusting mode. Once you're in the adjusting mode, you can set up the hours going up and going down with these 2 buttons. Pressing the mode button, the watch is going to ask you for the minutes, and once you set up the minutes, again, using these 2 buttons, you're finished. To exit the adjusting screen, you press the adjust button again, and now this alarm is set up for 1:03 a.m. every day because it's a daily alarm. Now please note that even when the alarm is turned off, as soon as you start adjusting it, it's going to turn itself on automatically. And pressing the mode button again jumps back to the home screen. And that's pretty much it. This covers pretty much all the functions and all the settings that this watch has. So I really do hope you found it useful and enjoyed watching. If you did, please like and subscribe. And until the next video, bye.